Hi, this is Mike Hinojosa, and you're watching P3 on Rise Above TV.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. You're watching P3, the place where we feature individuals who tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. I'm your host, Janie Terrazas, and today I'm very grateful to have the wonderful Mike Hinojosa. He's a musician and songwriter, but he just recently retired from a 35-year career in law enforcement. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about power, passion, and purpose. Thank you so much for being with us today, Mike.
Thank you, Janie. It's great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.
I'm always looking for chances to share some of the things that I feel.
I love it. And I love that you said that you feel, right? Because what we think and what we believe causes us to feel a certain way. And being that you have had a long career in law enforcement, I'd love for you to just let our viewers know the titles that you held and the career that you're coming out of. And then we can just see where it goes from there.
Sure. So I started in '78. I was a Brownsville police officer. I worked through patrol into detectives, and then ended up working narcotics. Went into the federal government in U.S. Customs as an investigator, but then it changed on 9/11. We merged all the agencies, immigration and IRS, everything merged into Homeland Security. So I ended up running the border from Brownsville to Laredo for Homeland Security investigations, which was pretty challenging time. The Zetas and the Gulf Cartel fighting each other all the time. So it was a really interesting career. I'm very blessed.
That was there was so much danger. You were always around just this high intensity and volatility. Were you already practicing certain spiritual practices back then to help you with all the high stress and the trauma and everything that you were always around?
Ever since I was young, I'm going to say 14, 15, I wanted to be a priest at one time. I started studying, the Catholic catechism and how to become a priest. And it didn't go that way, but when I got into law enforcement, that spirituality stayed with me. So oftentimes on patrol or working a case, I would ask Heavenly Father to, help me find what I needed to find, do the things that he wanted me to do. And I should say now I've learned it's more of a father, mother God, as opposed to just father. But father is one of the attributes, right? So I would always ask for help, and I was very successful. I was very blessed. I have no college, yet at the end of my career, I was managing people with PhDs and all of that, only because I was led that way, not because of anything I did, just because of what he did or they did for me. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean. When you say they, it's like you're honoring the alpha and omega aspect of
right.
divinity.
And the male and female, right? Because you have father intelligence, mother love, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I see it a little differently now because I've grown, because I've been focusing a little bit more on spirituality, as opposed to just trusting the divine to help. Now I have a stronger connection with the divine, a communication, actually. You know what I mean? It's more of a two-way street now than it used to be.
Yes. And that's something that we all have the ability to open up to. I feel like it's our birthright, it's our inheritance to have that fluidity and communication and being in communion with our maker, our creator, a power of like all things and the source of all things. And that's like building a relationship with yourself and with that part of us that lives within. What were some of the things that led you to be able to establish that? And would you say that is part of where you feel power comes from?
Yeah, okay. So some of the things that led me in that direction were jumping from law enforcement into the last career that I had was in a bank, and it was anti-money laundering compliance in a bank where I was managing people. I had no idea what was going on in the bank because I never was a banker. I never knew anything. So immediately I had a 45-minute drive to work right from where I was. So on the way, I would talk to the divine. I would say, you know what, this is going to be a great day. And I started listening to a couple of things, and Wayne Dyer was one of the people I started listening to. Very positive, very coach, very in. He has so much insight about, you know, what our consciousness can do for us, right? As we have the right mindset. So I started developing that mindset mentality, and every day for, I'm going to say 3 or 4 years, I was doing that. On the way to work and on the way home, I was grateful, and I didn't connect with communicating until later, but that got me on the right path.
It was like a step.
Mm-hmm.
There's these choices that we are being led to, like there's little curiosity starts to spark from within, and we start, what you seek you shall find. And then what's really neat is when you really are in that state of desiring to learn and grow and understand, and to be at peace. Like, what does it mean to really be at peace? Then that stuff and people and books will just come to you sometimes. You know what I mean? So just,
I think that's what's happened. That's what happened to me, because from Wayne Dyer, I then moved on to, you know, a little bit of Louise Hay. You know, you got Hay House, you got all kinds of things you can learn and listen to. And I was able to, you know, connect with different media, audio presentations and things, you know, that led me on my path. So, so ultimately, I think I would say power is what we have in us to do the things that we were meant to do, or to live the way we were meant to live, which a lot of people, sometimes we can't recognize that we're on the path to find it, right? But I think what I found was that within me, I have the power to control how I think and what I think about. And that brings to me, you know, back what I'm thinking, right? So as you are, as you think you are, that type of thing, right? Even Jesus said that, right? As you think you are, as a man thinks he is, right? So that really came to become literal. And it started happening, and I started seeing evidence of it. So that just kept me going, right? So the power part of it for me is, you know, the divine creator created us. And as he created us, he's still us. We're still, you know, the creator, because every little minute atom particle of anything is all part of the same thing. It's just that we see it differently, right? So vibrations are different. You know, it makes wood, it makes a tree, it makes whatever, but it's all the very, very bottom, very, very smallest particle. It's all the same. And it's basically, I think it's that power of God's love that makes us who we are. And when we learn that we can control it, and it helps us live the way we were meant to live, that's when you get that passion for life, because now you know why you're living. Now you know you're alive, because there's only one thing we really need to worry about, and that's how we treat other people. And if we treat the people with love, divine unconditional love, the way we were treated, we give it out, we get it back. And so things just become wonderful. Even if you're not as rich as you want to be, or you think you want to be, that goes away. You don't even think that way anymore. All of a sudden, you're just thinking, you know what? I know that everything is divinely provided at the right time and perfectly provided for me, and I don't have to worry. So stress goes away, worry goes away, fear goes away. All of that disappears when you connect. So that's kind of the part of it, right? That's what I feel, you know.
Yeah, it's like the intrinsic motivation was to feel at peace, to feel at ease. And you realize the more you took care of yourself and loved yourself the way our divine mother, father would love us. And then when you learn how to do that, it's easier then to extend it towards others, and then it just becomes your natural state of beingness, which is going back to, like, you know, what Jesus was talking about. It's like there's a way, and I always tell people how your being impacts your well-being, and it will also impact the well-being of others, those that come around you. You know, do we want to like uplift them, or do we want to like tear them down. And at the very minimum, if we don't have anything nice to say, then maybe just don't say anything at all.
Yeah, I go with that. Yeah, that's right. It's funny that you said that because how we yes, I had to find out how to love myself first, right? So we all have our own little skeletons and things that we, are ashamed of, right? So part of the process, a big part of it, was a daily forgiveness to myself for the things that I felt I needed to, forgive myself for. And at the same time, one of the other things I learned was forgiving everybody else, whoever did anything to you, right? So I took it to another level. So I'm like that. I always try to go a little bit above, right? So I said, okay, you know what, Father, and I forgive everybody in my life for everything. But not only that, I want to withdraw all the judgments I've ever made in this life or in a past life or in a future life. And I want it to be transmuted into love. So I'm taking it back. If I ever judged anybody, I want it. I'm canceling it right now and I'm sending back love. And so that helped me forgive myself and everybody that I ever judged, because I don't want to judge anymore. No judgment, no criticism. That just comes back at you. So just don't do it. There's no reason. Everybody's in their own place as they're growing. And we shouldn't judge them because they're only doing the best they can with what they have until they can find a better place to be, right? So like meeting you a while back, I was on my path, and you're so connected and intelligent and smart. You're such a wonderful woman. But it really impacted me. And the session we had, just the one, lifted me. So that was a boost. And so I kept going with it. Haven't really got together with you since, but all I needed was that shot in the arm. You know what I mean? So then I kept on going with my process, right? And I believe so much in angelic healing and support. And I think that the creator has set up everything so perfectly. And I believe angels are part of that, right? So archangels and angels, and so I believe in all that, not just Catholicism, but angels. And so I call them in and I talk to them and ask them for help, and I feel like I get it because I have evidence of it. So what can I say, right? That's how I think about it. You got your power, you have your passion for life, and you have your purpose. And our purpose is to express God. Our purpose is to express love. That's all we do. If we do that, it's coming back and we're going to be completely satisfied with life.
There's so much that you said that I want to touch on. Oh my God. Okay. What you were just describing right now is like, you really come into this completeness, this wholeness within your own self. You feel so much fullness, so much aliveness that you just can't help but to want the overflow of the well of water that's just like pouring out of you to then pour it on to others, and however they may need that, and I think that's the other thing too. You were talking about really returning to, or we're here to really express God through us. So, God, we can replace that word with love, right? Like, how can I express love? How can I be loving? Well, what are the attributes of love, And I think that goes back to diving into some of the things that Jesus touched on, which one of them goes back to forgiveness and what it really means to be a friend. Like, he really had all of the attributes and all the aspects of like, let's say, even like the archangels. If you look at archangels, you can go into and research them, and they all have aspects. Now, this is a way to look at archangels and aspects of ourselves and God, right? So each of the archangels, they say, are represented by a color of the rainbow. But when you put all the colors together, it makes white. So it's like they have this is what's so neat too. And you're a musician. Sound is color. like our glands are like strings on a guitar.
Yeah.
I believe it's like BAGFEDC, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to the glands, which are the chakras, which are the rainbow. And so I'm always like, holy moly, we're the freaking rainbow. We're walking rainbows, man.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, I agree with that.
And then if all things also tie into sort of, there's this amazing mathematical equation that all of creation kind of fits into. Okay, so let me just kind of tie it back to the angelic realm. And I do like that also too. You're not necessarily tying it to a particular religion, because a lot of times, like Catholicism does have a lot of ties to it. But
Yeah.
what about the archangels? Is there anything specific you would like to share about that and what that communion has been like for you?
Well, I think one of the things that I know is that we all have guardian angels, and we also have an array of angels. I don't know if you want to call it an army or whatever you want to call it, but they're for us, right? And they're unlimited, because God's love is unlimited. And I think angels are God's love in a different manifestation, right? So it's same. It's all part of the same creation. So when you think about creation, I think it's like you have to think about everything. When you look up at the stars in the sky and the vacant part of the sky and everything at night and even in day, and everything's created, and it's all part of the same creation. So angels are part of that creation, right? So so we're part of them and they're part of us. So we're connected, and the connection is energy, because we're all part of energy. We're all energy in different form, right? So you take energy and what is energy? Vibrations, right? So what's vibrations? Vibrations, sound. What sound is? Music. It's all part of energy. That energy. That's how we're all part of each other. So you're sitting there and I'm sitting here, but the energy is everywhere. And so it's in us and around us, and we're connected through time and space, because we all have this same energy we come from.
Exactly. It's like
or the divine creator, whatever you want to call it, right? Yeah. So that connects me with my angels. I know that the angels are energy, and that I'm part of that energy, and that I'm part of God's creation, and so we're all part of it. So I speak to them, and the more I speak to them, the more they show me things, about life, or I see manifestations, or I see things happening that I say, oh, that's I know where that's coming from, and the mathematics, the geometry, all of that's part of creation. It's all part of creation, right?
Yes.
So
I was going to say something about sacred geometry, and earlier I went on a tangent. I'm not even sure if I'll end up using it or not, but basically the reason why I was talking about the angels and then brought math into it is because if you rearrange the word angels, you can see angles, and light comes through a prism, right? And it refracts or reflects into like these 7 different colors.
It's all, in one way to say it, is divine, the divine law of the universe. Divine laws, there's laws. Things all work according to divine creation, which is created under specific laws, and they just don't change, right? So it's like what you were saying. If you think about the earth giving us energy, take it back a little ways, because consciousness. Okay, now we're going to get deeper. Consciousness, from the time of creation, consciousnness is in everything, right? So everything is a conscious entity. The animals, everything, our bodies, every cell is a conscious entity doing its specific purpose. So it digests, and it does everything it needs to do to make skin, or it makes an eye, or it makes a tooth, but it's intelligently doing that. So every aspect of our body and every aspect of Earth is an intelligent consciousness doing what it's meant to do under the divine laws that God set, or that the Creator set, right? So Earth gives us what it needs to give us. So when we turn off a light switch, I have a habit, and I'll say, thank you, Mother Earth, and I turn the light off because I don't want to waste energy, but I'm also remembering Earth gave us that energy. Earth gives us water. Earth gives us air. Earth maintains us. So sometimes in the shower, I'll think, thank you, Mother Earth, for the water. And I always try to remember and maintain that connection. It helps ground us with Mother Earth. And it's all part of the creation. So it's like, it's all one. So got to realize it, right?
That oneness that you're talking about, recognizing the interconnection to all things, from the tiniest of things to the biggest of things, it's all at the center of the atom. It's just energy. And the more they try to look into the quarks and everything, it just keeps fractaling more and more. And there's like an infiniteness within it that like is mind-blowing, right? Like it's like, guys, really? It was just so fascinating to me that there really is an infinite supply of knowledge that we can dive into. However, it's how are we actually utilizing it? How are we embodying it? How are we putting it to practical use? We have to get curious about our bodies and about what stress actually is, and realize too that a lot of these patterns and these things that we're playing out can be course corrected. It does take time, energy, and attention. And you were talking about earlier, there's when you get to this place, what's so amazing that frees you and liberates you and takes your power back is that you're not worrying and stressed out about as many things. And you mentioned the only one thing we really, and you use the word worry, and I understand why you did, by the way, but really it's just more the thing that we must I don't even say concern,
focus on, maybe
focus on eso, like what we would want to focus on and pay closer awareness and attention to is how we treat ourselves and other people. You know what I mean?
That's the key.
That's key, man.
That's the key. No matter what, and all the things that you told me right now about your curiosity about the cells and all the things that the cells do, they're all, to me, just consciousness entities. That's all I have to know. You can know all the rest. I just know that, right?
Yeah.
And because they are that, when you think about your body, you can talk to your body, and your body will feel that you're loving it. Yes. And you're not just saying, oh, this is my body. No, it's not that. There's a lot to your body. And there's a lot of things happening consciously in every part of your body that we don't even think about, but it's happening because it's happening according to the laws of creation, right? Yes. So, you can love your body. You can love the tree. People say, oh, trees have voices. Well, they do. They probably do. I don't know. I can't hear them, but I know that they're alive, and I know that they're conscious entities, and they're there because they were created for a purpose, and they're living their purpose. So as humans, we're the same. We just need to live our purpose, and our purpose is to express love and heal, nurture, and love. If we can focus on those things and eliminate the unnecessary ego elements or personal emotional feelings that are not beneficial, then we can focus on the ones that are beneficial, and then we just live happier lives, and people around us feel that, and we get and they come to us. We get surrounded by more and more people of like-minded nature because we attract, right? We attract each other. So come together. So if there was more of it, the world wouldn't be in the situation it's in right now, but it's getting better.
All of the things that we need to just finally shine a light on need to surface. It's kind of like no one really wants to look at the wound, but we kind of had to go into it a little bit and see how we created it in the first place so that we can then do things differently and not keep creating the same wounds again and again and again. And I think that's another thing that's coming to the surface right now is just the word, healing, trauma, inner child, shadow work, really starting to create safe space for our emotions, because we don't want our emotions to get the best of us, but we've been repressing and suppressing feelings and emotions, which is tied to the matriarch, which is tied to the mother aspect of the divine, that nurture that heart space, which, by the way, they discovered we've got a brain in our heart. And there's more information traveling from the brain in the heart to the brain in the head to the rest of the body. And this is something that we need to like honor, and we've been disregarding it for too long. So this is part of like learning and growing, so that we can start nurturing ourselves better. And nature nurtures. God created the planet so that when our bare skin touch dirt, water, sand, rock, there's electrons that are emanating off of the earth, going into the bloodstream, fighting off free radicals. It's like plugging yourself into a pomegranate. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, I'm like, I'm gonna go get my pomegranate juice. I'm gonna go sit in nature. I'm gonna disconnect from technology, because there's a scale of like green time and screen time. And we get overstimulated, and so the cells can only handle so much stress. So to really go out and connect, it's like your cell phone needs to be charged up. What do? Plug it into the wall. You got to be recharged and restored. And to restore, one needs to be comfortable just being still. We're always doing, going, thinking, blah, 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 blah. And it's like,
Yeah, I have a good friend that gave me a grounding pad. So I have it there I have it, and it's grounded to the ground of the house, and it's under the sheets in the bed. So when you lay down, you sleep, and it's grounded into the ground, right? Not as well as standing in the grass, but it's still something that's there, right? So
it's a tool.
and I think that's important. I think that we need to ground ourselves with, and I think the way I do it best is meditating. I don't meditate outside, which would be good, but it's been too hot, so I just won't do it. So, but take yourself into a small place that's quiet, and then just be quiet, and then reach out. I like to talk to Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Uriel, and Archangel Metatron. So those are the angels the archangels I talk to the most. Yes. For asking them to help me with specific things, and they're omnipresent, so they can help everybody at the same time, type of thing. So they have so much energy that you just feel good when you start the day with a little, you could call it a ritual, or just finding your inner peace and with silence, because you can reflect on what's real, and then when you start your day, it goes with you. It can dissipate during the day, so sometimes it's good to take some time during the day, in the middle of the day, and do it again, even for 10 or 15 minutes, reflect, connect, and then keep going. So
I like that. Reflect and connect. Just pause for just a few minutes. For some, 10 and 15 might sound like a lot. So just even 5, if you could do 10 and 15 in the middle of the day, that's ideal for sure. But just stop, breathe, and be still. Connect with your breath. Bring all of your awareness into the now moment, because we're so split and multitasking and scatterbrained. You know what I mean? And it's a beautiful self-care practice that has so many health benefits. It helps with your brain. Like, you could just Google it and see what the benefits are. And when you do it enough times, then it just becomes sort of second nature, and you realize, holy moly, this really is sort of a non-negotiable thing for me. When you started meditation, what was sort of the form? Because there's so many different forms of meditation, and sometimes people get overwhelmed with the idea that when I go into it, I'm supposed to make my monkey mind stop. And is there any like words of advice or anything that you'd like to share about your take on meditation and what that was like?
I remember when I met you, I told you, what, I'm meditating, but I don't really know how, because I never really, there's all kinds of people who tell you how to meditate, right? Some people take you on a path, and they'll take you down the green to the water, and they'll give you an image in your head just to clear your mind. You're not really going anywhere, but you're actually just clearing your mind. So for me, I went through a couple of those types of meditations where you're guided meditations, and then I stopped, and then I ended up just asking the divine source to help me clear my mind and connect. And then trusting and knowing that the source will, because source wants us to be connected, because source wants us to understand the connection between us and source. So it wants us to be connected, right? So we just ask. That's what I do. I just ask. And then I'll be quiet. It doesn't matter if I'm laying down or sitting down, as long as I'm comfortable and quiet and I'm focusing, I close my eyes, and I just developed my own way of meditating. It wasn't really like any specific way, but I just developed it that way.
I love it.
And that's what I did. And then so I can sometimes get downloads of energy and ideas or intuition or inspiration, right? And trusting that during the time I'm meditating, that those are messages for me. I'll remember that, and I'll try to focus on that, right? Because I think the perfect way to live in my mind is through just divine guidance at all times. So if you were able to, which I haven't been able to, clear my mind and always focus on the fact that I'm divinely guided and I'm divinely cared for. When I walk out the door, if I get the hint, oh, go that way, you just follow the inspiration and the guidance that you're getting. You'll always end up doing the things you needed to do to help someone or to help yourself. And there's a way of living that could be just divine inspiration all the time. That's like a wow moment, right? But I'm not there.
Yeah, but I think you are, though. I think that you are. I remember earlier you'd mentioned that you had come to see me, and it was because we had a session. We had a session a while back, and I just remember you were already so present and already so connected. And I think that was the other part about our time together that was so pleasurable for me.
Special, yeah.
Was that our paths and the things that we were studying and the order that it was coming to us was very much the same. And so we were able to share. You gave me some insight to a series that I started listening to, which really helped me too. I think we had the same outlook and an understanding about Jesus's teachings.
Yes.
And we were comfortable with all the different ways that the divine shows itself to us and whatever forms, and for us, angels were coming forth. And so we were able to kind of dive into that a little bit and be like, oh, cool, because not everybody gets this, and a lot of people will judge and criticize. And some of this stuff is even looked at as it's looked upon with like blasphemousness, if that's even a word. And so I think you and I had also grown up Catholic, because I went through catechism and all that stuff too. And even like, I can't remember if you specifically came for some just energy healing, but just using that word and growing up in religion, there's a lot of like healing and beliefs and stuff that we almost have to let go so we could truly rest in this space. Wouldn't you say that is true?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of what would you call them? A lot of religions, I guess formal religions, I don't know what you would call it, but they don't believe, or they can't accept that revelation is now, that divine speaks to you, that there's communication, that source never stopped communicating.
Yeah.
Even though for that particular religion, there's a set number of quotes that come from religious leaders that they believe are divine communication. They sometimes think that's all there is, and that's all there's going to be, until there's another revelation of some magnitude, right? But in reality, it's not that. In reality, there's been communication forever to the receptive mind.
Yes.
So if you put yourself in that receptive mode, you can't deny it, because it comes, and then it manifests, and you're seeing the evidence, and it's just growing, and you're like, this is true.
Yes. And
that's just the whole.
when you were describing it earlier too, that connection, inspiration comes forth, ideas, guidance, comfort, insight, bigger picture things to like real deep sacred knowledge and wisdom about our existence and about humanity and about the planet. And it's like, oh my God, this is so lovely. And I feel like, you know, God notices when we really get excited and enthusiastic about the deliverance of what we're being given and like being witness to it, and just all of that, it just starts to amplify, and more, you feel more goodness coming from the inside, and then you see more goodness coming to you.
Yes, because you're putting it out.
Right,
So
you're like sorry, go ahead.
you're putting it out, right? Like you're putting it out and you're getting it back, because that's the thing, you know, if you put out a bunch of negative criticisms and worry and stress and oh my God, this and this and this and that, you're just building it around yourself.
It's like you're
And
putting it in your biofield.
You're creating that energy in your own self, and that's what's coming. So if you change it and you put out only positive energy, you could call it, but positive energy is a lot of things. It's love, it's kindness, it's random acts of kindness, it's following that inspiration when you see somebody that you just need to say something like, hey, are you doing okay today? Or hey, how are you doing? Or hey, you got beautiful eyes. Sometimes at the store, HEB, you know, you just say something to somebody and they'll be like, oh, thanks, man, you made my day.
Yeah,
That energy, that's the energy, you know, and then it just keeps growing because that person's going to feel happy. They'll have that positive energy and then turn to the next person and it'll go there too, you know.
Yeah,
So
it'll like trickle. It goes back to, you mentioned universal laws. I love that you mentioned universal laws. Like everybody needs to just kind of research those, but one of them is the law of cause and effect, which some call reap and sow, which others call karma. And it goes back to what you were just describing. Earlier too, you mentioned forgiveness, and that how a lot of this process for you was catching and just noticing with compassionate curiosity, guys, because you have to have mercy for yourself as you start to witness the high judger, right? The critic and the judger that comes forth, the doubter. It's natural. It's kind of tied to our ego, but we could rise above our ego. We could get compassionately curious about what our ego is thinking and doing, and not always believe it, right? That's that creating that space between you and it, and discerning all of your thoughts. And over time, you become less critical of yourself, less judgmental, because you realize you're all one. And so when you spit that onto other people, you're kind of spinning it onto yourself. And that's why it really goes back down to self-care and self-love, right? Like how do you treat yourself, and how would you like to be treated, and how can we become more of that? When you mentioned forgiveness, it made me think of the word trespass. And so there's these ways in which we unconsciously self-sabotage ourselves. That's another word, the saboteur, the trespasser. When we trespass ourselves, we trespass others. And I love the visualization or the words that you use when you were talking about going into that time and space, you know, when you were wanting to do intentional healing, and you were like, what was it that you said? I absolve or I clear, like all of those statements and contracts, or you said,
oh, I cancel it, I call it back.
That's it. You cancel.
Call it back.
Yeah, you cancel it, you call it back. And in that process, you restore your energy. You took back your power, and where you gave it away and where it was a little bit imbalanced and distorted, and you transmuted it and whoop, brought it back to yourself.
That's it. Yeah. I can't cancel that because all that energy I put out was negative energy that was inappropriate. So in order for me to forgive myself and everybody else, I need to cancel that energy. I need to pull it back to myself. I have to acknowledge that it was me. It was all my responsibility. And now I'm sending love in place of that. So transmuting it from a negative to a positive, and love will always conquer. So it's yeah.
I love it. We mentioned earlier about you being a musician and a songwriter, and I would imagine that music for you and performing is part of how you maintain your inner peace, because you mentioned meditation and a lot of the stillness and the quiet time that you give yourself so that you could commune with God. So music is just another one. If there's anybody out there that would like to listen to your music, how could they find you?
Oh yeah, they could go to YouTube. I've got some of my stuff on YouTube at Mike Hinojosa Music. on YouTube. If you just search that, you'll find me. But something about music for me is the tones, the vibrations, the sounds gives me the peace, right? No matter what song I'm singing, really, it doesn't really matter. But sometimes when searching internally for connection and inspiration, I can wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and just write a song. And then it comes out and I'll go back to sleep. And then in the morning I'll wake up and I'll read it and I say, man, did I write that? I don't remember writing that. And I did. And then I'll play a little tune and I'll ask for help and then it'll come out to be a nice song. And so usually those songs are related to spiritual elements, spiritual ideas, or something of that nature, right? And those moments reinforce my awareness that music is my thing. Because I know that I need to sing songs that other people write, but I think I need to connect better with writing songs that I'm inspired to write. Those songs always get more hits. You know what I mean?
Of course they do, man. That's that beautifulness about when we tap into our truest, realest, most authentic self. You know, the persona that God really has intended us to to really play out, to be
So yeah,
optimal. Yeah, go ahead.
there's messages that we can share different ways. In my way, one of them is singing, and lyrics. So I'm also guided in my mind to write. So I have a book I'm working on of inspired information, right, that I feel I need to talk about. Taking a while to get to there. And so everybody should just follow their inspiration. I mean, everybody has them. We just need to follow them to get where we need to be, right? I mean, the evidence comes. So test it. Let me put it that way. Just test it. Just test it any way you want, and it'll show up because Father, Mother, Life wants us to be connected. Life wants us to know more and really be aware of how God is within us and around us. Just life wants us to know that more. So test it, right? Test it. Pray, do whatever you want to do. But if you test it, I guarantee something will happen and you'll say, oh, I'm gonna go that way a little bit further and see how it goes, It'll work out.
That's what happened with me. I think a few years back, when I really started to understand intuition, I started to view it as our divine GPS, the light that's within the body that powers this whole entire thing up is what all of creation is like made of. And so if that is intuition, I was like, well, you know what, for the next month, I'm just going to listen to every single little time that kind of, says
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna see what happens. And so that voice within the heart, that's the following the heart, that's a new thing for a lot of people. It's a scary thing for a lot of people, but like what Mike was saying, all you can really do is just test it. Going back to listening, you were saying just even it giving you direction, like when you're driving and it's like, exit here instead. And you're like, really? You never know. It might be averting you from some traffic, or maybe while you're driving, maybe you've been looking for a really awesome crepe place and it's just been in your mind. And then all of a sudden intuition tells you, exit here. And then you're driving down that street and you're like, oh my God, look at that crepe place. Boom.
Well, if you test it like that, you'll recognize why. So the test is just the beginning, having the faith to do it. And then you'll all of a sudden recognize, oh, that happened because I did that. So if I do that more, that'll happen more,
Yes, you play with it. I love how playful you are, Mike. And I really appreciate just you being a male at this time on the planet and being a Latino male, and you being so respectful and in a place of wanting to honor the mother and the father, the matriarch and the patriarch. So you just kind of restoring that truth within you gives other men permission to do the same thing. And I really believe like you're a true gentleman. You understand what it means to be a protector and a provider and a caretaker and a nurturer, and you're getting really comfortable with both sides of that part of you, I guess, and then embodying them in such a way that our creator and maker would like for you to. So I want to like commend you for all the work that you've done, not just in like the material world and your career and your profession, because I know that you helped society in a lot of ways, but I also know that you touched a lot of people's lives, people that you worked with, and even the individuals that you may have had to incarcerate or anything like that. I have a feeling that there was always that love within what it was that you were doing. And for
Funny you
that,
say that, yeah.
go ahead.
Funny you say that, because one of my talents as an investigator was to gain the cooperation of the individuals we were working with, and identify with them coming from the bottom that was never rich or anything in the streets. We identified, and we actually kind of we shared something when we were discussing it. I was doing my job, they were doing their thing, they knew that's what it was, and they definitely trusted me. So hopefully they went the right direction and ended up good for them, right? But yeah, I had a real definite ability to connect with the criminals that we were dealing with, because they're people. They're not just bad people, they're just people. And when you start talking to people like that, you connect, and they say, well, okay, look, this is what it is. And boom, you find out the things you need to find out, you know. Some people are pretty hard, but not most, you know.
Yeah, you gave them a safe space, even in times of like chaoticness. There, you have figured out how to be the eye in a tornado and in the hurricane, and that's a very powerful gift and tool to have. So
I was very blessed.
You're
very blessed,
yes,
very
yes.
blessed.
And you know why too? Because you are always giving so much gratitude. Like that's one thing I just want to mention too. Part of your medicine that you were constantly delivering to yourself, that was empowering you and radiating you, or empowering you from the inside, illuminating you, so that you could be really that well of water that Jesus talks about, is all the gratitude you were always giving.
Really important to be thankful for everything. Even in an event that's tragic in your life, you still need to be grateful for the opportunity to express and go through it in a way that will help you grow.
Mm-hmm.
It can be hard, but you have to, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we can't avert pain, but we can decide how long we suffer. And I think that's another thing that you really touch on too, is you have figured out how to heal your own self of the addictions that you had to pain and suffering, and now you live more of a inner, your life from the inside and the outside is more aligned with peace and pleasure, which is really lovely, because that's what we all deserve. We're all worthy of that. Are there any last words you would like to share, maybe on what you feel like unconditional love is? Because there are healthy boundaries in that. So maybe if there's anything you'd like to share about that.
Oh, yeah. I think unconditional love is just that, unconditional love. But there is a limit where we should not allow other people to hurt us, or our spirit, or our body, or those we love, or people, anybody else that we see. So we have a protective nature, because we're the same as divine, which is nurturing, protecting, taking care of, loving. So you have to keep all those elements in line when you're unconditionally loving someone or something. So you can't let it harm you, but you can love it.
I love that. Thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure being able to spend this time with you. And of course, let them know how they can connect with you. I know earlier you mentioned that you have a YouTube channel.
Just the YouTube channel. It's Mike Hinojosa Music if they want to hear some music. I'll keep adding songs and stuff like that. But I really appreciate, Jenny, that you thought of me, because it really helps me to share. So everything that you've allowed me to do today is just enriching me. So thank you so much.
And you've enriched me, you've enriched our viewers, and continue to do all that you're doing so that you can keep living your P3 and be a beacon of light for those that are really needing one right now. Thank you, Mike. Again, it was awesome.
Thanks, Jamie.
And thank you everyone for supporting the mindfulness movement here at Rise Above TV. Your likes, shares, and follows are greatly appreciated because they help spread the love. Subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels for more mindful content. Thank you again for supporting this season of P3. Be sure to tune in for season 4. Till next time, peace be in us.